cultures have the same ingredients in their own version of a cookie. So, you know, you think if you've had Mexican wedding cakes, Scottish shortbread, I wrote some of them down actually because I was going to liken it to those things. Also, what else? Anything that starts with butter, because you know, only good things start with butter. It has to be butter, it can't be oleomargarine. You know, my mom lived in the era of oleomargarine, but for this, she used butter. And you know, butter's not cheap anymore. But for baking, I will spend the money, you know, for baking I will.
How do you pronounce it?
I pronounce it shakalochmahs. So the A's in Armenian are ah, like the ah sound. So it's shakaloch and then mahs. Yeah. Other people might call it something different, but this version of this cookie has different names from what I understand. See, I'm glad we waited. Welcome guys, no problem. It's pretty casual, so don't worry about when you come in. I think I packed half my kitchen today, just to bring to this event.
I'm admiring you, Nixon.
Yeah, let me tell you, it is my best friend. This is a copy of the recipe. It's my best friend, and even when I was single, I decided that I would get good kitchen tools because, you know, people who use tools, they usually like good quality tools to do the job and to do it well. And this one, my friend, she said, I got it, you know, Black Friday, and I don't even use it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm like, I will buy it from you. Happily, I will gladly do that. So, I think you can all hear me, right?
Yeah.
Are these the type of cookies I think that have a walnut in the center?
No.
It's like a.
No, and I actually
Because my grandmother used to make those. Yeah.
I know which ones you're talking about too, and I actually have some of the cookies already baked, already done. I just am not able to share them with you because of the food regulations.
Yeah.
So I do have them. You guys can come in and have a seat. Come on in. This is my house. Welcome to my house. This is my table. This is my table. And I have a copy of the recipe for you guys. You might want to sit up front where you can see best.
Sure.
The expensive seats are up here, guys. So I would run for those. Yeah, Norian, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
How are you?
All right. So I have copies of the recipe. Everybody has one, right?
Yes.
Because I usually add notes. I have little tricks. I didn't put every single thing in here because you didn't need to read a thesis today. You just need to know how to make cookies. And so this is going to be pretty simple. And I'm going to just put recipes in some empty spaces here, and then we are definitely going to get started. I'm sorry I don't have stuff for you to try, but food regulations don't allow such things anymore. All right, I think that should be good enough.
Hey.
I didn't see you. Wait, is that allowed? Oh yeah, we're around Armenians. We can do that. We can do that. We can do that stuff. We can get away with it, right? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get the party started, even though it looks like it already started here.
I didn't recognize her, that's why.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's nice. Well, Parav, to all of you, each veses. I'm recording this for YouTube, but don't worry, you're not on the recording. It's just me. I figure I went to all this work. I'm going to record this. I'm going to start my timer. Guys, come and pick an empty seat further up here. I have copies of the recipes where all the empty seats are. So please go ahead and grab that. And actually, John, can you take these if you see other people come in who don't have a recipe and pass them? My name is Ruth Hartunian-Alumbaugh. It's a pleasure to be with you. My goal today, I have a goal, it's a Saturday, but I still have a goal, is to make Armenian baking easy and accessible. Because lots of times when we think of ethnic cooking and baking, we're thinking, I have to be in the kitchen for 3 weeks in order to produce something. But today we are going to make this recipe, and to me, I can do this. It's as easy as throw everything in there, throw the switch, and I'm done. I'm not gonna do it that fast today, but that's my goal for today. I have the ingredient list for you guys. No special tools are needed. You know, as Armenians, we use what we have. That's right. We use our hands. So if you don't have one of these big babies, you can use your hands to do the dough, and we'll go over that too. So yeah, this is accessible. This is gonna be easy and accessible, so we get both the ease. I have my contact information on these little cards. I can happily share with you later. I'm recording this for my Facebook page, which is called Ravings and Cravings. So if you want to go there and take a look at it, you're welcome to do that. I do a radio show that has to do with all things food in my community in Willimantic, Connecticut. Does anyone know where Willimantic is? Oh, good. All right. Well, I don't feel bad. So that's where I do that, and I do the programs every Monday night between 5 and 5:30, and the programs are recorded both audio and for visual, and it'll go on my YouTube channel, and it'll go on the WILI radio station channel for YouTube also. So it's like, we're gonna kill 5 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. Forget about 2, we could go for more. I want to dedicate this time to my parents, especially my dad. He's my only living parent who is living in Wisconsin. He's currently in hospice, and my sister's taking good care of him. But I wanted to dedicate this to him because he came here as an Armenian from Beirut, Lebanon. His parents survived the genocide of 1915. I am first generation born here. I'm first generation that enjoys all the blessings that go with living in this country. And so I don't take that for granted. So I want to dedicate that to him. He is currently in Wisconsin. That's where I grew up. I went to school in Oklahoma, went to school in Kansas, ended up here at a state psychiatric hospital doing my internship. My credentials are in music therapy. That's what my calling is. I think that's someone in the hallway.
Yes.
Okay. Music therapy is my calling, and so I've been married for 32 years. My husband is manning the camera over there. His name is John. I homeschooled my kids. I have taught music, and I'm a part of the International Student Ministry at the University of Connecticut. Come on in, guys. You're just missing my very long introduction, so we're going to keep rolling. My husband's going to pass out recipe copies to all of you. Can you all hear me back there? Because
yes.
I do have the technology. Like this is, I'm not Britney Spears, but I'll turn this on and see if this is helpful at all. Oops. Can you guys, is this bad? Is this better? Is this worse? Or should I just use my regular voice?
No, this is great.
Should I do this? Should I use this? Oh, okay, I just gotta make sure I don't get it caught in the mixer. So in my house growing up in Wisconsin, food preparation used to be an all-day event. We used to make shish kebab all day. My dad would sit outside by the grill. My mom would be inside the house putting things on the skewer. My sister and I were the shuttle back and forth, taking the food in and out, and then it would go in the freezer, and it would be great for all the time, for as long until it was gone. And we would make lahmacun like that. We would make manti like that. We would make all kinds of food like that. We even made, I don't know if any of you ever did this, but I've never done it myself. If you've ever made baklava from scratch, even the dough part, even the dough, we used to do that, and that used to take a whole day to do 2 9x13 pans of it. And my grandfather, who is from Beirut, and he survived the genocide in 1915, we don't use power tools. He was sitting there with a cutting board and with a knife chopping the nuts by hand. Now we use all these other fancy things to do that. So I grew up with a lot of great Armenian food, not even appreciating it, sadly, because I was looking forward to hot dogs and macaroni and cheese because I saw all my schoolmates eating all that stuff, and I was like, oh, that looks so good. But now, fast forward, and I think, I grew up a rich person and in an Armenian household, and so I'm very grateful for that. And you know, we don't pick our parents, so I feel very blessed. The cookies that we're gonna make in my house were called shakalochmahs. It could be called something else. You might know it as something else. Other cultures have similar things, but I would say all good things, like I was telling the front row here earlier, all good things start with butter. And that's what we're doing today. We're starting with butter. So far, you guys can hear me? We're good?
Yep.
Because I don't want you to miss anything. I did bring a few publications as far as what I have published in the past. I'll leave these up here. The one that you will be interested in is this one. It has a full spread on all Armenian cooking in my kitchen and with my recipes from my family. So I'm very humbled and very proud to be able to present that and to share that with you. So I'm gonna just leave it on the table up here. Please don't take it home with you. I wanna take it home with me, but I thought I would bring them at least to share it with you. So here we go. We're gonna get this party started with my mixer. My butter is unsalted, and they're at room temperature. So as you can see, how much butter do I have called for? 1 pound. 1 pound equals probably 30 after you eat them. But like I said, all good things start with butter. So I'm gonna put the butter in my mixer. And if you have questions about anything while I'm doing things, feel free to go ahead and blurt it out. I'm gonna try really hard to stay on time. But if you have a question about anything I'm doing, please feel free to blurt it out. You can use cheap butter, you can use expensive butter, you can use any kind of butter you want. The only thing you're not gonna wanna do is you are not going to want to use oleomargarine. You're not gonna use reduced fat butter. Okay, because you know, we're gonna do real things for real people. Yeah, real things for real people. We're real people. So, you know, one recipe, if you see it on here, I think it's on there, one recipe makes about 80 cookies. Makes about 80. They're about 3 inches long though, so think about that. They're about 3 inches long. So you don't have to feel like really guilty when you eat them. So I'm gonna throw the butter in here. And then I'm going to add the flour and the egg yolk. So I pre-sifted the flour before I brought it here. How many of you sift your flour before you bake? Oh, you guys are rock stars. I am so lazy. So this is a sifter, right? Good. Yeah, you see that? I did use it once. And I sifted for the occasion, okay? But if you want to kind of cheat and you don't want to sift, because sifting it's another step, I will use what's called a scant cup of flour. So here this calls for 5 cups of pre-sifted or scant cups of flour. And basically what that means is you're omitting roughly 1 to 2, at least 2 tablespoons of flour. So if you put your 1 cup of flour inside of your measuring cup, take out a couple tablespoons, you can just kind of eyeball it. This is not like chemistry, like real science. This is relative science. So you can do scant, and so you don't have to do exactly 1 cup. Does that make sense? So scant cup. So for those of you who like to cheat, like me. So this is going to be a very stiff dough, and it says in the directions you can also use your hands. I'm going to try not to use my hands. So I'm going to just try not to do that, yeah. So I'm going to throw my egg yolk inside of my mixer. Technically, I should probably be putting this in a, well, that didn't work very good. I should be putting it in a, what do you call it, in a cup or something like that. I shouldn't do it like this, but I'm doing the quick way here. All right, there's my egg yolk. That's good enough. So far, so good, guys. Any questions so far? We're good? All right. I'm also gonna throw the vanilla in there. I'm gonna just do all this stuff up front. And I'm gonna gradually put in the 1 cup of powdered sugar and the 5 cups of flour. So I'm gonna add things little by little as this is on. So it's gonna be noisy, just so you know. And then I'm gonna stop it and do a little bit more talking, okay? All right, so here we go. Does anybody have one of these babies at home?
Mhm.
These are,
Not that one.
Not that big.
well, and you know, during COVID, I was like, we were all wondering like, where can I spend my money? And because I'm not going on vacation, right? So instead I bought this bowl because I thought if I ever do cooking classes, and I sometimes do cooking classes, now you're gonna be able to see things better. So, you know, I did this for you.
Well, that's if you can get flour during COVID.
Oh, flour, my local co-op, I could get a 50-pound bag of flour, no problem. I usually buy 50 pounds at a time. Yeah, I know.
You should come to work.
It's a beautiful thing. And I can smell the vanilla. I know you can't smell it back there, but. And I think you can still hear me even while this is running, can't you? So I just wanted to mention for you guys who came in a little bit later, I'm dedicating this time to my dad, who came here from Beirut and whose parents survived the genocide in 1915. So this is for him. So I'm gonna add my powdered sugar, and I'm gonna just pour it in here. Well, this is at a slower speed, so obviously I don't have clouds of things coming up here. I'm still gonna get a cloud though, right? All right, and I'm going to add the flour little by little. If you want to stand up, that's not a problem. You guys can stand there if you need to see. Feel free. But I'm going to put the flour in, and I'm going to do it little by little because I'm going to scrape down the edges. So one thing I'm eventually going to add to this, as I'm just scraping down the edges here, is I'm going to add roasted pecans that are very finely chopped when I'm near the end here. And have any of you ever roasted nuts when you're baking?
No.
Whenever a recipe calls for nuts, I always roast them. Mainly because it brings out the flavor of the nut. And so when I roast, I like the slow method. So I'll put my nuts on a flat baking sheet. Doesn't have to be, it's just flat. You don't put any fat on it, you don't spray it. And you just let it stay in your oven at around 250 for 45 minutes to an hour. About halfway through, you're gonna go in there and you're gonna just stir things up a little bit. And then you're gonna just continue the process. If you want, you can do this at 350. You can put the whole nut on there. And that, to me, the way that I know it's done is I will go out my front door. I'll stay in the fresh air for a little while. And if I can smell them when I come in, they're done. Because God gave us noses to smell. Armenians have noses. So he gave us noses. And that's how I know that the nuts are almost done roasting. So that's my test. Has anyone ever made a version of this cookie at all? Or is this like a completely new thing? Never, ever? It's similar to
Kurabia?
Yeah, that's what somebody
I
just
was
said.
gonna say, it looks like what.
Yes, 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 that is what I've heard someone call it also. Is this the same start? As far as how you make the cookie? For those of you who've made it?
Yeah.
How do you say it, kohlrabi?
Kurabia.
And so what is it? Is it butter, flour, powdered
Like
sugar?
a tea cookie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is basically similar. Yep, definitely. All right, let's keep that going there. This is the most time-consuming part here. So if I was at home by myself, I would probably throw at least half the flour in all at one time. And I wouldn't be so careful. I would just throw it in there. Yeah, yep, there we go. That's all the flour there, so at least that'll be done. All right. Yeah, so I have a cup of toasted pecans here. They're very small. Let me come around and let you take a look at how small this is while this is still heating. You see?
So when you say you roasted them, do you roast them whole or you roast them all chopped up?
Say that again?
When you roast the nuts, do you roast it whole or you pulverize it first?
Yeah, the pecans, I roast, pecans you can get the pieces because we're not making pecan pie and we don't care if it looks pretty because then we want the whole pecan, right?
Right.
So for this, you can get the pieces or whatever. You can even use walnuts. If you want to use hazelnuts, you can use those. You can use almost, I don't think I'd use peanuts. That kind of sounds. Oh, no. No, let's say no to that. So to me, pecans are the first pick. Walnuts are the second. I think usually if you're looking at it from an economic point of view, walnuts are a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Hazelnuts are kind of expensive. Pecans are maybe somewhere in the middle. Almonds, you could. I think you could, yeah. But can you see how finely they're grated? See how finely it's grated?
I pulverize them because I don't like it.
Yeah, I put it in a
Food
little
processor.
I put it in a little food processor. I do not do those with any kind of board.
Or a hand.
If you let it go a little further, you have pecan butter. Questions as I go down the edges here. Are there any questions so far? I'm almost at the point where I add the pecans because the best part's coming. Of course, I would be eating the dough raw.
Oh, yeah, you gotta try it.
No, they won't let you do that.
Who doesn't?
I was gonna bring cookies that were already made but I was told that, food service and food regulations don't allow you to do that. So, yeah, I'm sorry, you're not gonna get a cookie today, but at the reception, I'm sure you'll get something. I brought a few to show you, brought a few to show you what they look like finished, so. All right, so here we go.
Did you put in?
How much of the what?
Nuts.
I put in 1 cup.
Yep.
Okay, 1 cup, okay.
And one thing that I think which is really fun about this, and I feel proud of myself that I thought of this. If you have people in your your friends or whatever who have nut allergies, save half the dough and don't put nuts in them, and then put nuts in the other half, and then everybody can have what they want.
Oh, yeah.
So yay. I have no nut allergies. Most of the people that I spend my time with, they don't either, so I don't really think about it, but a lot of people do have severe nut allergies, and so you know, if you want to do that, you can do the half and half. Oh, do you want my picture? Oh, all right. Sure. I'm posing, no. We're good? All right, you just keep going. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with this so you can see. So this dough is very, very stiff. It's very stiff. If you end up using your hands to mix it, because like this is a machine, this is a workhorse, you know, this can handle things, right?
Yeah.
Like I can put a double batch of chocolate chip cookies in here and it doesn't even gasp. It's happy. However, if you don't have something like this and you're using your hands, what you're going to want to be careful of course, is the fact that your hands are warm. Yeah, and you're going to have things melting if you don't work quickly. So I have never made this with my hands because I have this, but this is something you want to be careful of, is the heat from your hands, because you know, heat and butter
Melts.
yeah, that's what happens, so you don't want that to happen. All right, we're almost done here. You can cut it in half, sure you can. And you know, this recipe, if you, let's say you're too busy and you don't have time to make 80 cookies, you know, because this takes time. What I'll do is I'll assemble the dry ingredients one day. The next day, I'll make the dough like this, and then I'll put it in the fridge, and then the next day I'll bake it. But the key with the dough here is the fact that you will need to, what I think would be a good idea, is you'll need to put it in small containers because you need it at room temperature in order to do the next step, which is rolling it out. I found that when I refrigerate this, it doesn't work well when you take it out of the fridge when you're done and you want to go to use it. It needs to come back to room temperature. So if you put it in smaller containers in your fridge or your freezer and you bring it to room temperature, then you're ready to do the rolling part of it. It's much easier. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, because that way then you'll be more successful than I've been when I don't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out of here. I can show you what it looks like. I can come around and see. Well, I can't. Yeah. Sadly, I can't put on my. Here. You can see how stiff this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is. It's very stiff. Can you guys see? Okay.
It's delicious in that form.
I know. Let's have a dough party when we're done here. Here we go. See what it. I'm gonna dump that over.
Yeah.
And then it's almost buttercream, right?
Oh, I
Butter pecan, right?
I do it just because.
Yeah, you do it just to get.
Yeah. Especially Chinese.
Yeah.
All right, so using my hands, I'm going to go to the next step, which is to roll things out into the shape that we want the cookie in. You know, there should be perks to being my husband.
So,
Oh, he gets to eat it?
Well, you know, there should be perks to being the husband, so, you know, let him do that. All right, I'm going to get out of your way here. So
some
we
people
talked
you're
about.
grossing out, some people you're making envious.
I would be the one eating that too. So now we're gonna roll the cookie out and we're gonna cut it to the size that we want it to be cut. So let's pretend that this is a flat surface. I didn't know that they were gonna have tablecloths on the tables. I cannot roll on a tablecloth. And so the key next is the fact that you don't want to incorporate more flour into the cookie dough. And that's why you do the scant, and that's why you do the sifting. It puts more air into the flour, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bit of flour. This is my rolling surface. Let's pretend this is a table. This is my old pan, right? So I'm gonna throw some flour on here. And then I'm gonna use my hands. And I'm gonna work in small batches because my hands are warm, right? So I'm gonna get a batch about this big, I'd say the size of, looks like a tennis ball.
Yeah.
Tennis ball, kind of, yeah. And I'm gonna roll. And what you're gonna wanna do is you're not gonna wanna put too much pressure on the dough because it'll crush the dough. So you have to roll gently and you can't be in a hurry. So this is where, you know, you think about people that you love and who you're making the cookies for and how you love the fact that you're an Armenian and that, or that you love Armenians. So can you see, I'll hold up my little rope. I'd say it's about, what do you think, about a foot long?
Yeah, 12 inches.
Is that like about a foot?
Yeah.
And it's about an inch in diameter, is what I'm gonna say, okay, just so you got the, and I'm gonna shake off some of the flour because I don't want it on the cookie. So I'm gonna move that aside and I'm gonna roll it just a little bit more, okay? And then this is how my mom did it. She would cut it on an angle, okay? So I'm gonna cut it on an angle like Mom would have done and make the angle cut about 3 inches. It's about 3 inches long. So it looks like
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, and what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna roll out anymore, but this lovely pan is also my baking pan. And because I don't have to clean up, I'm gonna just make a mess here. Because I can. And I'm gonna put them on the baking sheet because I wanna show you how close together you can put these.
Yeah, because there's no baking powder.
So look at it, like I have 6 in that one row. And I could probably put 7. Yeah, I could probably put another one there. I could put 7 in one row. So this is one way to get a whole bunch of cookies done at the same time. Let me pause and see if there's any questions before I go on. Because I don't want anyone to like not know what to do here. Any questions? The baking sheet, I like parchment paper. You know, parchment paper, you can, if you take good care of it, you can use it over and over again. As long as you don't like put molasses cookies on there or something sticky. I wipe mine down. If you do not use parchment paper, you can just put the cookies on the sheet because they're fully buttered. So they're not gonna stick, okay? So this is a pretty economical cookie to make, which I'm a fan, so. Ungreased cookie sheet, close together. You're gonna bake these at 325 degrees for about 15 minutes. They'll still look like this as far as color on top, but the key is on the bottom it's gonna be like a slight golden brown. Not totally golden brown, it's a slight golden brown. And again, if you're not sure if they're done, what are you gonna do?
Try one more.
You're gonna leave your house.
Yeah.
Go outside.
Oh, go
Get some fresh air. Come back in,
Yeah.
and if it smells like a butter cookie, that means that you're almost done. You know, we have our senses. And in the days when we didn't have all kinds of tools and things like that, Armenians, we use what we have. If we have rocks, we make soup. If we have butter, we make cookies. We have learned from our ancestors what to do with little. So to me, this is like a nod to all of that. So you're gonna go out of your house, you're gonna come back in, if you can smell it, you're good. If they're slightly brown on the bottom, you want to take them out of the oven. I make 2 trays this big, that'll make my 80 cookies, and then I will let them sit on my stove, just give them a little bit of a rest, and then remove them because they are very delicate and they'll crumble very easily. So I would use like a spatula, something that's flat, that you can scoop a whole bunch up and then put them on something that is got hard edges, like a glass dish or something. because otherwise they're just gonna crush. Now, cookie crumbs of these, it's not a terrible thing. Cause I'm thinking.
Just as good.
Cookie crumbs, that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? These, I think you could even make a pie crust out of them. I mean, if they crumble, just think about, graham cracker crust. These would be the same consistency as graham crackers. So these are very versatile. You could even use them to top your cheesecake. I mean, there's so many ways that you can do this, right? All right, so we have the dough, we've made the cookie here. The next step is the fun step.
Clean up.
Oh, no, I don't have to do that. No, I just do the demo, I don't have to do that. Next step is serving it, right? So I brought some of my favorite things that I brought from, that I got from my grandpa. So of course, there's always surge,
Oh, yeah.
right? There's always surge, and usually, I mean, I wouldn't do this by myself because, we're hospitable people. We serve people. This is for my friends. This one's for you guys. You have to share one. You have to share one. And of course, I would have my Armenian coffee, right? And I would have my little plates to put my cookies in, and maybe some candle egg. Why not? Life's short, right? And I did, like I said, I did bring some cookies that are already made. So these were made and they were in my freezer. Okay, they were in my freezer. And here's what they look like when they're done. These are pretty hardy. I'm thinking if you find that your cookies are too crumbly, like when you try to hold them, you might want to put them back in the oven for a couple more minutes. And that might help solidify it. Like I'm holding this up. Obviously it's not crumbling in my hands, right? It's not crumbling. So here's my cookies, and I have like 5 of them that I will put on my plate.
That's all for me.
I'm like, you're not sharing.
So there's my plate of cookies, and then of course the final touch. I don't know if I put this in the
Here's
in the
powdered
recipe.
sugar.
Guys, did I put that? Is it on there? That you
No,
should
you
dust-
didn't. I was wondering if you were doing it.
Dust with powdered sugar. Alright, so this takes a lot of talent, I gotta tell you. So just watch this now. It's all in the wrist. Yeah. As the wind blows it away. Here we go. Here we go. This is shakalochmahs cookies. Made from the Hartunian household. I'm gonna leave them right out here if you guys wanna take any pictures. Any questions from anybody? Let me see if I missed anything on my recipe.
Quick question.
Yes, question.
How long will those cookies last in the freezer?
How long, you're asking me who eats raw dough, how long cookies are gonna last?
What I'm asking is, how,
Yeah, freshness, yeah. Or when will it
well,
start?
of course, we'll eat them quicker than they'll sit in the freezer, but do you happen to know how long?
I would say at least 6 months.
Really?
Yep,
Okay.
at least 6 months. They're gonna last. And I like to be hospitable. And my freezer died last Friday. And I had pre-made cake batters from scratch and cookies and herbs, and I had so many things. And I was so sad. I don't like throwing anything away. I will find a way to use whatever I have. But I was grateful that I had these cookies in the freezer because life without cookies is a sad life. And so the fact that I could have cookies made things a little bit better. And I didn't have to throw them away. I did a lot of baking and a lot of cooking in the last week, let me tell you, a lot. But before that, for the first time, I made my mom's lamajun recipe.
Oh,
With-
that would have been a great.
With ground lamb and ground beef and all of the seasonings, and I doubled it, so I made like 100 of those. The tradition continues of massive produce.
Did you make your dough for the?
My mom used the Pillsbury hot dough mix, which I had to order from
Oh.
Olathe, Kansas. you could make your own dough. The mix has, I wanted to do exactly like Mom.
Yeah.
So the hot roll mix has yeast and it has sugar and it has some other things in there that make it what it is. So
Oh.
after one rise, then I could roll out 100 of those babies. And so I made, I did all of the parsley and all the chopping on one day.
Yeah.
The next day I got the meat and put it all together. The next day I made the roll mix, and at that point I knew that I had to complete the project because I couldn't put it off. Although I could have put in the dough in the fridge and then let it come out the next day or whenever within the next 2 or 3 days. And then I could let it rise and then I could still do it. So I could detain things, but I went ahead and did it all at once. So yeah, I'd say up to 6 months. And one thing you could do, like for Christmas, if you want to do like red and green, you could put a little drop of food coloring in your dough. So you could, if you want to make it look like Christmassy colors or whatever. I mean, you don't have to do that. There's all those sugars that are different colors too that you put on. You have lots of options as far as making them fancy. But for me, it's like, to me, the quality of the cookie is more important than what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so, and I take that into my life with people. There's something good on the inside somewhere. You may not look that great, I may not look that great, but on the inside, that's really what matters. It's the quality of the thing that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the quality of the cookie is what makes the difference, because even if it looks nice and it tastes terrible, nah. Life's too short to do that, right? Life's too short for that. So these cookies do freeze well, and they are really simple to make, like I said. If you have any other questions, please feel free. Yes. Ruth, I know your name, Ruth.
Yeah, you don't do clarified butter, you just do.
No, nope, just the good old butter from the package. Last time I sent my husband to the store to buy butter, he bought 20 pounds.
What?
What?
Yeah. So what I do, my strategy
He
is.
really wanted you to make a lot of cookies.
Well, I'm thankfully I have another refrigerator and a big freezer, because I'm a part of a ministry with international students, and we open our house and we feed people at our table, and that is.
And that's like 30 to 50.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why I'll buy 20 pounds of butter like that, like right around mid-November, because then the stores are gonna start limiting the amount of butter you can buy because of the holidays, and because everybody's making cookies, right? And butter doesn't really have a shelf life. I mean, I use it quick enough, so 20 pounds is like no big deal,
Yeah.
I
throw it in the freezer.
And I mean, yeah, you can put them in the freezer too, no problem
Yeah.
with that,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Any other questions, comments, anything?
Tell us about your radio show, it's recipes?
Radio show is called Ravings and Cravings, so if you Google it, I think you'll see my face come up on Google. It is on WILI. I have a few of my business cards from that. I do that as a public service to my community, and I feature anything that has to do with food and drink. So, for example, I actually interviewed the marketing person from the Aragak Bakery in Goomery, because I thought that the concept of employing adult children with special needs alongside of their mothers and producing an epic French product with coffee at a shop in Goomery was like, that is pure genius. It just hits all the right notes everywhere. And so I could get her on a Zoom call, and we could talk about the Aragak Bakery in Goomery, even though I'm in Willimantic, Connecticut. So that's like an example of one thing. I live in half my community is Hispanic, so I have one program, I try to do one program a month that's bilingual, because it's indicative of where I live. And so then it's Spanish-English. One thing I have coming up is, I saw the Canine Academy opened up nearby me, and I thought, that would be a very, cookies are done. That's my timer telling me I have like 5 minutes.
Oh.
The Canine Academy near me just opened, and I thought, wouldn't that be a very interesting program, is to learn about what those dogs eat. Because the fuel that they eat will fuel the work that they do. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna have somebody like that come in. And then I had someone come in who installs commercial kitchens. So like there's so many angles as far as food. Another person I had come in, he designed a specific bar called the Thes bar. And it has a message from the Bible, QR code on the outside of the bar, and it's to feed people who are homeless. So the bar is soft and you can chew it because many people who are homeless don't have good dental hygiene and they don't have access to dental, but they can still eat and they can still be nourished. And so I talked to him about his bar and how he produced it and why he did it and what the purpose was behind it. And so the field is big as far as radio and then YouTube. You know, you get the visual on YouTube. So I ask people to bring in food if they want to bring it into the station, or I'll go on site. Like one time I did an interview somewhere and it was in someone's backyard and the turkeys were gobbling. And another interview I did in someone's restaurant, 5 minutes into the interview, everything in the kitchen fell on the floor. It was like a big crash. It was so funny. But I do not edit anything. It's raw, it's uncut, you get what you get. And I'm not interested in being perfect. My husband is, but not me. Any other questions? Radio, I answered your question. Anybody else have a question? I have these cards here. Feel free to come and take pictures. Take a bathroom break because I'm done a little earlier. Feel free to do what you need to do. I will be here, and it's a pleasure. Thank you all. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you.